Welcome back, beautiful souls. I'm Jenny with Jenny Current Astrology, and today we're diving into one of the most fascinating full moons of 2026. On July 29th at 10:43 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the moon reaches peak fullness, 6 degrees Aquarius, directly opposing the sun, 6 degrees Leo. While every full moon represents culmination, revelation, and illumination, this one feels different. It isn't simply another full moon. It's the first major activation following the Aquarius new moon solar eclipse that occurred 6 months ago on February 17th, 2026, exacting 28 degrees Aquarius. That eclipse planted a seed. Today's full moon reveals what has grown, not only over the past 6 months, but taking us all the way back to December 2020, when Jupiter and Pluto, who are now facing off in an opposition under this full moon, last aligned in the sky. You may have felt called toward a new community, a new identity, a different vision for your future, or perhaps you quietly began releasing an old, outdated version of yourself. Now the universe asks, what has matured enough to stand on its own? And fittingly, this full moon is known as the buck moon. Today, we'll unpack the incredible symbolism behind the July buck moon, the powerful chart patterns, including a locomotive pattern, a rare cradle formation involving an alignment of the outer planets called Barbault Basket, the massive fixed T-square involving the full moon, Pluto and Juno in Aquarius, opposing the Sun and Jupiter in Leo, squaring off against Chiron, 0 degrees Taurus, Jupiter's Cazimi beside the Sun, Saturn retrograde's influence, and the Sabian Symbolism. Last but not least, we'll be unpacking what this full moon begins for the collective for the next 18 months. Let's dive in. This full moon features a rare opposition between two titans, Jupiter and Pluto, which occurs every 12 to 13 years, creating tension that unearths themes of power and deep personal transformation as power struggles are triggered throughout the collective. It provides a testing ground in all areas related to finance, goals, and beliefs. Compromise and collaboration are key to furthering your personal goals, ambitions, and objectives. Tact and diplomacy are needed because as your personal power and strength grow, it can elicit insecurity and defensive reactions from others. Leo energy reminds us never to dim our light to make others more comfortable in their shadow. It remains their shadow so long as we do not absorb or react to it. Be bold and courageous as you lead life by example with a generous and open heart. Remember, you were created in the image of something divine. The source to that divine lies within you. Integrity means aligning your actions with a belief system and a higher set of values. With power and influence comes great responsibility. Always wear your invisible crown. Aquarius energy, on the other hand, reminds us to detach from the trappings of overly relying on external validation and ego, and rely instead on our intrinsic motivation to serve the greater collective that we're a part of by applying our unique talents and abilities. Every full moon completes a cycle that began 6 months prior. So this full moon reaches back to the extraordinary Aquarius new moon solar eclipse of February 17th, 2026. Solar eclipses don't simply begin monthly cycles. They begin chapters. Sometimes they're years-long chapters that are unfolding. Back in February, Aquarius asked us, who am I becoming beyond who I've always been? Aquarius governs freedom, authenticity, innovation, collective evolution, your soul tribe, and the future. Many of us began changing friendships, directions with our careers, technology, our relationship to community, or simply realized we no longer fit inside previous identities. Now, 6 months later, the universe shines a spotlight on those decisions. Where have you grown? Where have you outgrown your old herd? That question becomes especially meaningful once we understand the buck moon itself and its symbolism. Native American traditions named July's full moon the buck moon because this is when young bucks begin sprouting their first antlers. Antlers aren't just ornaments, they're symbols of maturity, power, protection, leadership, and perhaps most importantly, independence. Young bucks begin separating from the herd. They establish their identity. They learn who they are outside inherited structures. Spiritually, deers carry profound symbolism. Across numerous traditions, deer are viewed as messengers between worlds. They're often associated with ancestral wisdom. Many indigenous teachings say when deer appear, ancestors are near. The deer remind us we never walk alone. Our lineage always walks beside us. But here's where the symbolism becomes especially beautiful. Within many spiritual traditions, the deer represents divine feminine, gentleness, grace, intuition, and compassion, while the elk represents the divine masculine, strength, protection, leadership, steadfast movement. Together, they represent partnership and sovereignty. Not domination, not submission, but mature partnership between masculine action and feminine wisdom, symbolized by the exact square that's formed between Venus 21 degrees Virgo and Mars 21 degrees Gemini under this full moon in Aquarius. This full moon asks, where are you still living from familial conditioning instead of ancestral wisdom? Because those aren't the same thing. Some family patterns deserve honoring, while others deserve ending. The buck moon asks you to distinguish between inherited love and inherited limitation. Just because something has always been done a certain way doesn't mean that it's your destiny to perpetuate the cycle. Sometimes the greatest way to honor our ancestors is to heal what they could not. And if you have your natal Saturn in the 4th house, as I do, it is your God-given destiny to do so. Just 2 weeks ago, we experienced a deeply introspective new moon in Cancer featuring Mercury retrograde in Cancer in an extraordinary Mercury Cazimi. This is when Mercury disappeared into the heart of the sun. Whenever a planet is Cazimi, it's reborn. Mercury governs our thinking, our communication, short-term or short-distance travel, perception, memories, and the stories we tell ourselves and others, the stories that create our reality. In the sign of Cancer, many people experienced revelations around family, childhood, home, emotional security and stability, and old narratives. That was the inner work. This full moon now asks us to live differently because of what we've learned. Cancer looks inward, Aquarius looks outward. Cancer heals the past, Aquarius is focused on changing the future. One of my favorite features of the chart of this full moon is that the sun is acting as the sole depositor. Nearly every planetary storyline that's unfolding ultimately traces back to one source, the sun in Leo. Think of the sun as the heart pumping life through the entire horoscope. And Leo is the sign of the sun's domicile. This is the sun's domain, its kingdom, its throne, and its purest expression. The sun represents our vitality, our purpose, our dharma, our creative spark, and our conscious soul expression. Everything in this chart eventually asks, what ultimately serves authentic self-expression? But the sun isn't standing alone. It's perfectly aligned with Jupiter in Leo at 6 degrees of Leo. This is a Jupiter Cazimi, when Jupiter disappears into the heart of the sun and is reborn. Jupiter symbolizes faith, wisdom, expansion, blessings, abundance, higher knowledge, and our overall life's purpose. When Jupiter is Cazimi, our beliefs are purified and our vision expands. Our confidence gets renewed from the inside rather than from outside or external sources. Our limiting beliefs and blocks to abundance have the opportunity to be released under the light of this full moon. The universe asks, what dream is worthy of your life force and energy? And sitting co-present, newly having entered Leo, is the South Node, 29 degrees Leo, the anaretic degree bringing a crisis, the karmic graduation point. Old identities, achievements, and ego stories are completing. It isn't punishment, it's personal liberation. Meanwhile, across the sky, the moon sits beside Pluto, Pluto's retrograde, and Juno in Aquarius. This transforms the full moon entirely. The moon illuminates, Pluto transforms, and Juno commits. Together, relationships, alliances, contracts, communities, and power dynamics become impossible to ignore. Pluto strips away superficiality while Juno asks, what are you truly committed to? This could involve marriages, friendships, business partnerships, communities, or even your relationship with your future and higher self. Aquarius isn't emotional attachment. It's emotional detachment, but with conscious alignment. And now we've reached the heart of this full moon, the fixed T-square formation. The sun aligned with Jupiter, co-present with the South Node in Leo, opposing the full moon, Pluto, and Juno, all aligned in Aquarius, all squaring off against Chiron, asteroid of deep soul wounding, 0 degrees Taurus. Fixed signs preserve and resist change until change becomes unavoidable. Leo asks us, will you shine and inspire others in the process? Aquarius asks, will you evolve and apply your talents to be in service to humanity? Taurus asks, will you feel secure enough to let go? Chiron exposes wounds around self-worth, survival, self-value, and safety. The pressure converges through Taurus because healing our relationship with value unlocks the key to the entire configuration. But here's the fascinating piece. The missing leg of the fixed T-square is Scorpio. Scorpio is therefore the medicine. Transformation, emotional honesty, shadow work, trust, true intimacy, death, and rebirth. Rather than forcing or controlling outcomes, Scorpio teaches surrender. Rather than clinging, Scorpio teaches metamorphosis. This full moon also introduces one of the defining stories of the next 18 months. The North Node of collective fate and destiny, with Pluto in Aquarius opposing the South Node of past life or karmic fate and destiny with Jupiter in Leo. Collectively, we're learning to move away from individual recognition toward collective contribution, from personal glory toward shared innovation, from ego toward purpose. Not abandoning our individuality, but allowing our individuality to serve something greater than ourselves. The Jupiter opposite Pluto transit brings a powerful clash between big ambitions, a clash of the titans, if you will, and the deep need for control, often leading to intense power struggles, ego clashes, and major tests of integrity. Key themes of this transit: big ambition. You may feel a strong drive to grow, succeed, or expand your power or influence. Control and resistance. Your desire to push forward may be met with strict resistance from other people or outside rules challenging you to conform. Power struggles. You may face conflicts with bosses, groups, or authority figures who seek to limit you. Risk of excess. The urge to win at all costs may tempt you to act selfishly, cut corners, or act with ruthless domination. Watch out for overindulgence, greed, and gluttony. How to handle the energy this summer. Check your motives. Avoid letting greed, obsession, or the egoic need to always be right or have the last word take over your actions. Try working with others. Success comes through collaboration and sharing power, not by forcing your way through or steamrolling the opposition. Focus on inner growth. Use this intense energy to transform bad habits and build true, lasting personal strength from within. The transit of Jupiter and the South Node in Leo, opposing Pluto and Aquarius for the next year, highlights a powerful tension between individual ego, pride, and personal validation versus collective control, group conformity, and systemic power dynamics. Peaking in July 2026, this major transit challenges us to release outdated patterns of seeking external applause while transforming our relationships with societal groups and technology itself. This can amplify a tendency toward overconfidence, entitlement, or an excessive need for praise, while asking us to purge old habitual ways of performing for the spotlight. Pluto retrograde in Aquarius exposes hidden manipulations, rigid ideologies, and power struggles within groups, networks, and collective systems. The opposition, it creates a tug of war, a point of tension between personal creative expression and peer or societal pressure to conform. And because it's in opposition, it will play out interpersonally in our closest one-to-one relationships. Here are some key areas of focus. Validation versus authenticity. We're moving away from relying on external recognition to feel important, choosing instead to anchor our self-worth internally. Power dynamics. We're examining where we might be giving our personal power away to a crowd, organization, or societal ideology, or holding on to our authority or power too rigidly. Karmic release. Letting go of past attachments to pride and ego, or the need to be the chosen one in order to make space for genuine, collective-minded evolution. This rare late July 2026 cosmic alignment puts individual ego and inflated pride in Leo against collective power and deep structural change that's needed in Aquarius. Key themes center on balancing personal recognition with community needs, reassessing loyalties, and facing major power reckonings. Here are the core astrological dynamics. On the Leo side, Jupiter in the South Node, highlighting over-the-top pride and performance habits, grandstanding, and a need to release empty applause or overly inflated self-importance. On the Aquarius side, featuring the full moon, Pluto, and Juno, this demands raw truth, examines where we blindly follow groupthink or have toxic digital attachments. And it triggers deep commitments or ultimatums within relationships. This is formed by the opposition, creating tension between the elite and the individual, the top 2% versus the collective. Relationships and long-term commitments will be a key focus due to Juno's presence, testing where we stay loyal out of habit versus what actually respects our personal freedom. The ego versus the collective. This forces us to look at how personal comforts or hubris clash with group and societal responsibility. Release and reset. We're going to rewind all the way back to December 2020 when Jupiter and Pluto last aligned. This current transit marks the exact planetary midpoint, the opposition, of the 13-year cycle that began with the rare Jupiter-Pluto conjunction of December 2020. While the 2020 conjunctions in late Capricorn initiated a seed planting phase of survival, global restructuring, and intense shadow work, This current transit, the opposition, acts as a harvesting or climax of that energy. Whatever deep structural shifts in personal power or core belief changes you initiated or endured back in December 2020 are now reaching a peak. And I'm pausing my notes here just to chime in with a personal anecdote. The woman I was in December of 2020, she was not as experienced with astrology. She had not gotten into her deep dive. She was still stuck in a karmic dance with her karmic twin flame, who absolutely did not treat her or appreciate her the first time around, but ultimately forced her to awaken to her own limiting patterns of people-pleasing, forcing her to, over time, align her life with soul purpose. Here we are with the astrology channel, translating the stars for all of you who are kind enough to tune in and engage with the channel. If that had not happened in December of 2020, I would not be the woman who sits here in front of you, empowered with 6 autoimmune conditions, fully in remission through diet and exercise, who has empowered herself by learning her astrology chart in such a way that I now can help and inspire others. I would like for all of us to take a moment to reflect on how tremendously powerful that is. And now we're coming from seed to harvest. Jupiter magnified Pluto's themes of crisis, breakdown, and hidden power dynamics within established systems. In 2020, you were likely forced to adapt to severe external limitations and/or re-examine your survival strategies as the world was completely shut down. In 2026, the energy now shifts from passive survival to actual tug of war. Rather than operating under the radar, the underlying themes of power, influence, and systemic truth will be exposed for all to see in the public eye. We're shifting from Capricorn to the Leo-Aquarius axis. The original 2020 alignment took place in structural top-down Capricorn. Now, this tension is playing out between Leo and Aquarius. Personal versus collective. The focus has evolved from dealing with institutional rules, Capricorn, to balancing our personal desires and ego expression, Leo, with the demands of the community and collective progress, Aquarius. The internal changes you quietly navigated in 2020 are now forcing you to stand up, claim your individual authority, and shed any remaining need for empty or external validation. Mars, 21 degrees Gemini, forms an exact square to Venus, 21 degrees Virgo. Mars in Gemini acts quickly. It wants options, conversation, movement, ideas. It functions from curiosity. While Venus in Virgo seeks discernment, improvement, service, practicality, and healthy standards. Together, this square can produce friction between wanting immediate excitement versus wanting sustainable, lasting excellence. Relationships may struggle with mixed messages. Conversations may become overly analytical. Creative projects may require more editing before launching. The medicine: listen before reacting. Refine before criticizing. Although Aquarius has modern rulership through Uranus, its traditional ruler is Saturn, and Saturn recently stationed retrograde in Aries just a few days before this full moon. This changes everything. Saturn asks, what responsibility have you postponed? What accountability have you avoided taking? When it's retrograde, it forces us to internalize, and that's because leadership begins with self-mastery. Aquarius seeks freedom, especially from control and conformity, while Aries seeks independence and self-sovereignty. Saturn reminds us, freedom without discipline is merely chaos. Real independence requires structure, boundaries, and self-discipline. Self-discipline is self-love. The chart of the full moon overwhelmingly favors the elements of fire and air, vision, ideas, inspiration, movement, conversation, and innovation. Meanwhile, earth and water are weakened. That means that collectively there will be less patience, less grounding, less emotional processing. This isn't a time to make impulsive decisions simply because inspiration is running high. This is a time to get inspired, but also ground your ideas, stay hydrated, sleep, and touch grass, literally. Despite the intensity, there's also remarkable support. The opposition between Leo and Aquarius is softened through harmonious sextiles and trines involving the outer planets, most of which are located 4 degrees of their respective signs, creating a cradle pattern, cradles that hold babies. A cradle suggests protection, opportunity, and grace. Even when life feels stretched to the limits, there are unseen supports helping you integrate the tension, but only if you remain open to them. At the same time, the overall distribution resembles something profound, Barbault's Basket. This is a pattern that often belongs to individuals or moments in history that carry something precious and completely rewire society. A basket holds gifts, knowledge, resources, and potential. But a basket must eventually be emptied. Its contents are meant to be shared. So this full moon asks, what wisdom have you gathered that the collective now needs? Such as what I went through personally and can now share on this platform here on YouTube. And last but not least, we have a final blessing. The full moon, Pluto and Juno in Aquarius form flowing trines with Uranus in Gemini. Innovation, liberation, unexpected breakthroughs, new conversations, spiritual awakening, technology, education, travel, and fresh perspectives. This tells us that transformation doesn't have to be destructive. Sometimes just one conversation can change everything. The sun at the 7th degree of Leo carries the Sabian symbolism, the constellations in the sky. This speaks of cosmic order, recognizing that individual lives participate in a greater celestial design. Your astrology chart is the blueprint for your soul's potential. It invites us to lift our eyes beyond limiting circumstances and understand that our purpose is part of a much grander pattern. The moon at the 7th degree of Aquarius carries the Sabian symbolism, a child born of an eggshell. This remarkable image symbolizes emergence into a completely new state of consciousness. The shell that once protected us can no longer contain what we are becoming. It speaks of spiritual birth, originality, and the courage to enter a world that has never seen this exact expression of you before. Together, these symbols beautifully summarize the full moon's message. Recognize your place within the greater cosmic design and have the courage to hatch into the unique soul you were always meant to become. The buck moon reminds us that maturity isn't measured by age. It's measured by having the courage to become who your soul came here to be. Like the young buck growing its antlers, you may feel called to leave familiar territory. And like the deer, your ancestors walk beside you, not to hold you back, but to remind you that you are the continuation of the story, and not merely the repetition of it. This full moon asks you to honor the past, while having the courage to create a future no one in your lineage has imagined before. Thank you so much for watching. If this message resonated with you, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments. What part of your life is asking for greater independence under this July buck moon? Until next time, take care of yourselves, trust your intuition, and keep looking to the stars.